afternoon, everyone. It is Wednesday, March 15th, 2023 at 3 o'clock p.m. And that means it's time for Women in Business. I should say up front, I canceled last week's show because my voice was not good at all. It's still a little iffy. I'm drinking a lot of water. I'm hoping that it's going to behave itself, but I really don't know. So I'm just letting you know in advance. And the other thing I want to say is how stupidly amused I am by the fact that my fingernails kind of match what I'm wearing. And I don't know why that makes me happy, but it does. So I have a prediction that you will see a lot of hand gestures in this show just because I like the fingernails. I don't know. There are times when I think if my mother could see me now, she'd be going, "What did you do to my daughter? She never liked any of this stuff before." And now she wears lipstick and nail polish and she dresses like a human. I mean, what's that all about? I don't know. Anyway, not the subject of what we're talking about today. Just something that personally amused me. So, what we are talking about today is weight and women. And the reason that we're talking about this, well, there are a couple of reasons. One is it's a subject that I've wrestled with for a really, really long time. I mean, probably since I hit puberty, which was pretty young. So I have been on every diet you can name. I have been shamed from eating. I have been forced to you name it, I've probably done it. And it screwed me up in terms of weight and body image and how I felt about myself and how I felt about what I weighed and how I felt about exercise and how I felt about a number of things for a really long time. So some of what I'm going to share with you today is stuff that I've figured out about how to handle weight. Some of it is things other people have figured out. But I wanted to talk about it because in the Women in Garment Decoration group, which if you haven't joined that group, you should really go do that. It's on Facebook. I did this as a Sisterhood Saturday post, which every Saturday I post about something related to a woman's issue. And I posted about women in weight because the American Pediatrics Association just came out with new guidelines for dealing with childhood obesity. And a lot of people were worried that those guidelines could negatively impact young girls, young children in general, but particularly young girls. And so there was some discussion about that. And I thought, okay, that would be interesting to discuss in the group, which we did. And some women shared some very personal things about their weight struggles or weight struggles of women in their family. And I thought, oh, I haven't talked about this in a while. Maybe this would be a good subject to talk about again. So that's what I'm going to do. And what I want to start with is some areas where weight can impact your interactions, can impact how others interact with you, can impact the quality of your life if you're female. And I want to say right up front, if there are any men watching this, I'm fully aware that there are men who have issues with their weight and have issues with being rejected because of their weight or have negative self-image because of their weight. I get that. I'm not saying that this is solely a woman's issue. I'm just saying that I think proportionately women are probably more impacted by weight issues than men. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that men are exempt from this. I'm not saying that these same things don't happen to men. I'm just saying, as a general rule, women are probably dealing with this more than men are. That's all I'm saying. So let's start with the first issue, which is weight and work. Now, I did some research this morning, as I often do before I do these shows. And one of the things I discovered is that if you are 15 pounds over whatever the acceptable weight is supposed to be for your height, you can make $9,000 less a year than someone who is at the proper weight. If you are 25 pounds overweight, you can make almost $20,000 a year less. Now, weight has no impact If you're doing, let me say this, if you're doing a desk job, if you're doing something where being physical isn't necessarily a requirement, or even if you are doing something physical, you can be big and be physically fit. This is a thing we need to wrap our heads around. You can be, healthy and able to do things and not a size 2. I know this is a tough concept for some people to get their heads around, but it can happen. And what that means is people are judging you on a characteristic that is just visible. They have no idea what you're capable of. They have no idea how that's going to impact your life. They're just taking the negative stereotypes that tend to surround people who are bigger and saying, you're not worth as much. Now, that sucks and it's really unfair, but it's something that you need to be aware of because this happens to people. And how your weight impacts what you do. Now, okay, granted, if you are a daycare worker and you're chasing children all day and you're really out of shape and very overweight and you can't move very fast, yeah, that's probably going to impact how you do your job. There are certain situations where a level of physical fitness is required. This is true. But overall, the size of your body is probably not going to impact how you do the work you do. And it certainly shouldn't play into what you get paid. Why you're worth $20,000 less if you're 25 pounds overweight, I don't understand. And there's also evidence and studies that have been done that show that overweight women are passed over for promotions, that they're less likely to be put in front-facing positions, that they're less likely to be given opportunities to present their companies at various events. And yes, I understand that there are exceptions to all of these things. I'm just saying, as a general rule. So, what this leads me to think is, okay, so there are people out there who are taking a look at you and deciding based on the size of your body that you are not going to be good at front facing positions or you are not worth as much money or whatever it is. And that's plain and simple prejudice, and it's wrong, and it's stupid. And you have to remember, and I think this is something that we forget a lot of the time, that there also are a lot of negative stereotypes that are put around people who are overweight. You're lazy, you don't try, you're a glutton, you just, if you would just get your shit together, you wouldn't have this problem. And we don't take into account body types, we don't take into account genetics, we don't take into account the fact that for some people, eating is an emotional release. It is a way to deal with other stresses in their life. That was me for a number of years. I was a huge emotional eater because I didn't have any other outlet. So, you're mad, eat a pizza. You're sad, eat a tub of ice cream. I'm not saying it's right and it wasn't the way to deal with the situation, but it was the way that I had at the time. And what this all translates to is that there are people out there who are very qualified to do what they do, who deserve to be promoted, who deserve to be paid more, and who aren't being paid more because of some number on a scale that probably most likely has absolutely nothing to do with how good or effective they are at the job that they're doing. It's just, and I really had not thought about that aspect of it before, I'll be honest. That wasn't something that I had been really cognizant of, that people are, that people make judgments like that and that you can be penalized for something that is really not applicable at all to the job that you're doing. And I like this comment from Sheila. Whoa, big topic and timely. I'm on a little weight journey, but it's more of a health improvement journey and it's only for me. not for anyone else. I'm worth it. And I love that attitude. And I love that she said it's more of a health improvement journey. Because when we get a little further into this talk, I'm going to talk about why I think that's the way to look at it. And why, when you change your focus, it makes a huge difference. But thank you for that comment, Sheila. I appreciate it. I appreciate that you're here watching. So, weight and your work are two things that you wouldn't think would be have anything to do with each other. But I mean, let's look at it in the sense of also weight can impact your self-image, which you're going to talk about a little bit later. And for some people, I know when I started this show 2 years ago now, over 2 years ago now, I was terrified because I thought I'm the biggest doughy glob of pasty white person. Who is going to want to watch this on camera? And I still have days where I think that. And then I thought, you know what? It's not about what I look like. It's not about what size clothes I'm wearing. It's about what I say. And maybe what I say means something to somebody, and that matters. So that's the thing. And a Facebook user, I don't know. Oh, it's Carolyn. She knows now to say it's Carolyn. I hate how a famous person who is plus sized is praised for winning their battle with weight. Like, what the hell does that have to do with their talent? They're better now? And it is Carolyn. And you're totally right, Carolyn, that it's treated like some kind of debilitating disease, and like what you weigh has to do with how talented you are, how well you play the piano, how well you act in this show. You know, it's like the one that comes to mind now is Rebel Wilson, who's lost a lot of weight, and she may have had whatever that surgery is. I don't know, but you know, she's now much thinner, and suddenly everybody's going, "Oh, she's thin," and I'm like, you know what? She was funny as hell. And I don't think she's as funny now because I think she's too focused on being sleek and thin, and it's like, you know, that's and personally, I thought she kind of looked better when she was a little bigger, honestly, but that's just me. But yeah, that's a thing. You know, you get congratulated when you lose 10 pounds, like you've won the flipping lottery. And it's like, I lost 10 pounds, people. Big deal, really. But people treat it like it's a huge accomplishment. I mean, I did not win the Nobel Prize. I'd like to win a Nobel Prize, but I didn't, or a Pulitzer or whatever, but I didn't. I lost a little bit of weight. But let's talk about the next area, weight and relationships. If I had a nickel, even a penny, honestly, for every time that I have been told, you know, you shouldn't be so picky. You should just settle. You know, the guys that you want aren't going to be interested in you. And I would look at the person saying this, who was often someone who was purportedly supposed to love me, and say, really? You know, and there was also this thing that because I had been bullied and picked on, I tended to be polite to other people who maybe had experienced that same thing. So there were several guys over the course of my teen years and young adulthood who had crushes on me because they had had the same sort of experiences, and I was one of the few women who was being nice to them, basically. And they were nice enough guys, but they weren't guys I wanted to date for whatever the reason. And I can remember being told, you know, my mother would tell me, which don't get me started on the message that came through here, but she would tell me, look for the guy in the back of the room, the one that, you know, isn't like the standout, because he's probably the guy that might go for you. And I was like, oh, okay. Thanks for that support. But relationships are hard when you're a bigger woman because there are so many messages out there telling you that you're not what men want, that you should settle for something instead of going for whatever it is that you really want, that you're not acceptable, that you're not lovable, And it's really a screwed up kind of messaging that we're getting. And I think here's what I think. And I would be the first to say my romantic history is nothing to write home about. I would not want anyone to emulate it. So I'm not setting myself up as a romantic expert here or anyone who knows anything about romance or what men like or anything. I'm just saying, in my opinion, male or female, the most interesting people and the ones that I think would be the most viable romantic partners are people who like themselves, are people who have things going for them, who are engaged with the world, who are trying to make the world a better place, and who genuinely like who they are. And they not like themselves in the way of I'm like the hottest shit that ever lived. No, not that. But people who like themselves in, I'm aware of my flaws, I understand I'm not perfect, but overall, I like myself. I like who I am. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of what I've done. I feel like I'm putting something worthwhile out into the world. That's the kind of man that I want to date. And yeah, if he's incredibly gorgeous, that's thrilling. But that's not actually for me. If he has a really good voice, that would be my thing because I have a voice kink like you would not believe. But, um, you know, that's not the first thing that I look for. That's not the first thing that I would want. Um, I would want someone who, in the area of appearance, is well kempt and, dresses well and tries to look the best they can. But I'm not like, it needs to be George Clooney. That's not the area that's going to be what I will look for the most. So I think when it comes to weight and relationships, particularly where women are concerned, it's maybe a little more superficial. And I don't want to say men are more superficial, but that has been my experience a little bit, that you tend to not get noticed if you're not a certain size or if you can't wear a certain type of dress or whatever it is. So, and we have another good comment here. I'm totally on board for those who lose for improvement of health issues and their own personal goal. It's just such a mind game for me. And I think it is for a lot of people. But I think when it comes to relationships, women get told over and over that the thing that they have to offer the most is what they look like. And if you're a bigger woman, you're told you don't look acceptable. And we're told that that matters more than if we're good people, if we're trying to put good into the world, if we're caring, if we're kind, if we're smart, if we're funny, all that stuff. And that's just wrong. I mean, weight is a physical characteristic and it can come and it can go. I would much rather spend time with somebody who's funny and smart and curious and, trying to put good into the world than worry about are they 5 or 10 pounds overweight or 20 or 30 or whatever it is. And I will also admit, I've had my moments of judginess and I've had my moments of, oh, he'd be somebody I might date if he was, 30 pounds less. I'm human. Everybody's like that. We all do it, but I'm not saying it's right. And I'm hoping that I am smart enough to have corrected that. I don't know, but I hope so. So let's talk about weight and health. Now, in the past couple of years, I've dropped about 75 pounds. And I did it because of health, because I have a heart that is stressed. I have a heart that doesn't work right. I had a number of other physical issues, and I thought, okay, we need to get serious about this. But I also had been told for years and years and years and years and years and years and years by any number of medical professionals that if I dropped the weight, I could get off a bunch of the meds I was on. the medications I was on. It was going to make all this difference, blah, blah, blah. Okay, fast forward to now, 75 pounds lighter than I was, probably a little more than that by now. And it has made zero difference. I'm still on all the meds I was on. I've actually added new ones. Lucky me. I have new aches and pains that I didn't have before because I'm using my muscles in new ways and I'm stressing my joints in new ways. So losing weight from the standpoint of you're going to get off meds and it's going to correct the conditions that you have was complete and total crap. It didn't make a bit of difference. Now, in terms of my numbers, in terms of my health, in terms of sleeping better and being more mobile and being more fit and being able to do more things, all of that, amazing. It's been wonderful. But in terms of what the doctors told me in an effort to try to get me to lose weight, nothing. Didn't make a bit of difference. And I think that's something that the medical professionals need to address, which is they tend to make weight and weight loss the be all and end all of everything. And yes, weight loss can help. People who are overweight have a higher percentage of getting diabetes. People who are overweight can have higher cholesterol. People who are overweight are stressing their organs more. I mean, yes, that's all true. And losing weight is going to potentially fix those things. But at the same time, there is genetics in play. And sometimes it doesn't matter what you weigh and things are going to happen. If you're like me and you start with a deficit from the get-go, losing weight doesn't really make any difference. My cardiologist told me, he's like, yeah, if you had weighed a little less, maybe these heart problems would have started a little later, but they were always coming. The weight was not the thing. It was your heart is damaged. And I was like, okay, that I can live with. That I can be like, okay, that makes sense. And then he followed up with, because he's a really smart guy, but there are things you can do to make sure that this doesn't deteriorate further. There are things you can do to help avoid potential problems. And that's why you should do these things. And losing weight is one of them. And losing weight also has potential benefits in terms of being able to sleep better, and in terms of being able to move better, and in terms of being able to do more things. And never once did he say, and you'll be smoking. And I'm glad he didn't, because, well, first of all, that would have been weird from your doctor, but also that wasn't the point. The point was, let's get healthier. And if getting healthier means you lose weight in the process, that's awesome. But if you're moving and you're eating better and you're making smarter choices when you eat, and you're still the weight you were, then that's how it is. And, he is one of the people that also kind of made me understand the genetics of things a little bit. And when I got that, I was like, okay, because I had always thought I need to be a size 6. This body is never going to be a size 6. It's never going to happen. It's just not. I'm not built that way. I'm built curvy. I'm built with a chest and hips and a behind, and that's how I'm built. During my dark year, I basically starved myself for pretty close to a year, because I was broke and I was depressed and I didn't have a job and I had no money coming in, and there were long stretches of time where I ate very little to nothing. So starvation diet, basically. At the end of the year, was down to a size 14. And I can remember vividly going to the store with my mother, because she said we were going somewhere and she wanted to buy me an outfit, which is something she did commonly. And I got into a size 14, and she was all ecstatic that I was in a size 14. And that was like the first time in forever that I'd been in a size 14. And part of me was going, oh, yay, I'm in a size 14. And another part of me was going, after a year of basically horrible stuff and starvation, I only got down to a size 14. And part of me also wanted to say, should we really be celebrating the fact that because of emotional trauma, I lost a bunch of weight? Is that a good thing? Should we be glad about this? I don't know. So there were a lot of things going on there. But what that taught me was even at the most extreme, when I was basically on a starvation diet and I was walking everywhere because I didn't have a car and I was in a desperate search for, money or jobs or whatever. So I was walking all over the place. I still only got down to a size 14. My body just doesn't, it's not going to be a size 6. It just isn't built that way. And I'm okay with that now. Now that I know that and I understand it, I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I can be the best I can be within the parameters of my body, but I don't want to starve myself until I'm a size 6. I don't want to not eat for days and days and exercise for 2 hours a day. I don't want to do that. I want to be healthy, but I don't want to be like insane about it. So I think that's something that we need to start talking about more too, is what is healthy for your body instead of these unrealistic societal standards that most women can't meet. And the women who do meet them are basically torturing themselves to meet them for the most part. Not worth it, honestly. So let's talk about weight and self-image. I had, huge problems with this for years. Absolutely years. I thought I was the ugliest person on the planet. I thought I wasn't worth notice. I thought I should basically throw a sheet over me so no one would ever have to look at me. I hated everything about my body. I hated everything about how I looked. I hated everything about me. And some of it was because of messages that I was given as a child and young woman that basically told me that the way I looked was unacceptable. And what's funny is I look at pictures of myself, and up until the sexual abuse started happening, I was pretty much a normal size young woman for my age. Now, when the abuse started happening and other things started happening, probably about junior high when I started getting bullied, then I started eating more and I got bigger. But I look at pictures of me at like 12 and 13, and I look normal proportionally for my body. But then I started eating because eating was a way to deal with all the trauma I was dealing with. And I got bigger and I got bigger and I got bigger and I got bigger. And the bigger continued for a really long time because I was very unhappy. And part of the unhappiness was the fact that I had been told so often that I was not acceptable the way I was, that nobody was ever going to want me, whatever it was. And that's something that I'm still working on. I probably like myself and the way I look and who I am better than I ever have. That's been a work in progress for a really long time, because if you're a woman and if you're overweight, the messages that you will get are that you're substandard, you're not pretty, you're not acceptable, you're not desirable, whatever it is. That anyone who wants you is a chubby chaser, and aren't we glad that those kind of people are in the world, which is, just mean, but whatever. And it took me a really long time to be able to look in the mirror and go, okay, you're not so bad. It took me a really long time to admit that I wanted to look nice. I went years and years paying as little attention as possible to what I looked like and what I wore, because I wanted to give the impression that I just didn't care. And of course I cared. Of course I cared, but I figured there was no way that I was going to be acceptable. So I just was going to pretend that I wasn't even trying. And yeah, it's a scary place in my head sometimes. What are you going to do? And I like this comment. I look at my past photos and I remember how I thought I was so fat. God, to be that size again. What a waste of my young life. And yes, this is the other thing. When we think we are fat, we don't do things. We don't go after what we want. We don't take chances. We don't pursue opportunities because we think we're substandard. We think we'll be rejected, whatever it is. So your weight can impact your self-image and potentially your life in a very, very negative way. And it doesn't have to be that way because ultimately weight and size are just numbers. They don't have anything. One of the smartest things I have to say that I ever did was I banned the number. I told my doctors, I don't want to know when you weigh me. Do not tell me what that number is. Don't tell me. I don't have a scale in my home. I don't want to know the number because for so many years, I lived by that stupid number. Was it up? Was it down? Should I eat this? Should I not? I don't want to do it anymore. So I exercise. I try to exercise at least 5 days a week. It's usually more like 6 or 7. I try to make smart choices when I eat for the most part. There are days when I'll indulge, but I try for the most part to make smart nutritional choices based on, I have some fun little hurdles to jump because of medications and other things, but I try to do that. And then that's it. And the way that I know that it's working or not working is how my clothes fit. And that's good enough for me. I don't need to know what the number is because the numbers just get in my head and mess me up. And I get obsessive about them. And then pretty soon I'm eating 2 peas and, half an English muffin for dinner. And that's dumb. And it doesn't solve the problem. And it's unhealthy. So I banned the number. And that has helped a lot, I have to say. Just because I don't have to think about it. The number has no relation to me. It's just a number. I don't care what it is. And it's helped. So something to think about. Now, attitudes toward women and weight. I'm just going to touch on this one really, really quickly. But I think the main thing we need to kind of want to discuss here is the fact that for women, weight is proportionately huge in terms of what people think of them or can be. That women get judged on this all the time. What size are you? How do you look in that dress? How do you look in general? Is your face too round? Whatever it is. We are told pretty much from the time we can understand language, that good women, desirable women, positive women are women who are thin. And there's no discussion of body types. There's no discussion of emotional eating. There's no discussion of any of that kind of stuff as to why someone might not be that way. Like, I'll just give you an example. So the Oscars were Sunday night, and Jamie Lee Curtis won an Oscar, and she wore this dress that I would kill to wear. It was gorgeous on her. And she's tall and she's statuesque and she's curvy in the right places. And it was just beautiful. And I looked at that dress and I thought, I would give anything to look like that. Now, if you put that dress on me, it would look horrible because I'm way more curvy than she is and I'm shorter. And it would not look the same. But that look was a look that, to me, I thought that's desirable. That's what you should want to be. Now, that's a great look for her. It's not the look that's going to work on me. Doesn't mean that the look that would work on me is any less than what worked on her. But she's acceptable and my look maybe would not be. And that's the thing that I still, like I said, all of this is a work in progress. I'm looking at someone who is not built like me in any way. Even if I got thin, I wouldn't be built like her. I'm just not. And I'm still going, oh, I wish I could be that. Well, I'm never going to be that. That's just not how it is. And maybe in the silence of her room on some occasion, she goes, I wish I was more curvy, or I wish I was this. I think all women do that. We all, because again, that's another thing that we've been told is whatever you are is not right. You should be something else, which is sad. So here's the part where hopefully we change some of these attitudes, or at least maybe talk about how to be a little better to ourselves when it comes to our weight. And the first thing is just be kind to yourself. And be kind to yourself in how you talk to yourself about your weight. Be kind to yourself in how you handle what you eat. And be kind to yourself in how you exercise and how you handle exercise. You know, when I first started on the journey of getting healthier, I would berate myself a lot if I had a day where I didn't exercise. What are you doing? You should be exercising. Why are you not out there? And then I realized that really what I was doing was playing tapes of my parents in my head. Because my parents used to take me on the Bataan Death March when I was a kid. They would force me to exercise, and I hated it. And it was annoying as all. But the things that I was saying to myself were the things that they would say to me. And I understand that they were doing it. They meant well. I get that. But the way they approached it was really not optimal. Optimal? Optimal? I don't even know what word that is. Wasn't optimal for me. So I needed to learn to take a kinder approach. And now when I'm feeling like I don't want to exercise, some days I just go, okay, you've done your 5 days this week. You don't have to. Or, okay, you have enough time left in the week that you can still get your 5 days in. You don't have to. And some days I say, do 15 minutes. And if you really are not into it, you can quit. Or, hey, there's that workout that you really like. Let's just do that. It's a little easier, but it'll still be moving. And that's a thing too. You need to remember that you don't always have to just be a sweaty, ragged out mess where, when you're done. You can do more gentler movement, and that is still exercise. You're still moving. You're still burning calories. You don't have to kill yourself every day. I try to do a good mix of cardio, weights, and mobility. And mobility is either yoga or stretching, or what really is mobility, which is just making sure that your joints and your tendons can move in all the directions they need to move. And there are days when I really don't feel like exercising, but I know there's this one mobility routine that'll really help with my hips or my shoulders or whatever it is. And I say, well, I'll just do that. And I do that. And it still burns a reasonable number of calories. And it makes me feel better. And then the next day I'm better set up to maybe do something a little tougher. Like the last couple of days I've done mobility because I've been really sore for some reason. I don't know why. And then today I did a cardio weight routine. And because I'd done the mobility, the cardio weights felt better. And let's see, this is a big comment. Everyone should invest in a stylist just once and get the best you and feel great about the professional self. It's really not that expensive. As a sewer, my clothes are fit to me. So things look different than off the rack. The rack is a lie that's made for a certain shape. Have a favorite item fitted and then you will love it. Now, I've never done this, but it's actually this could be a way to be kind to yourself, is to talk to someone who really understands body types and clothing. I was just looking at what I'm wearing today and before the show and going, why doesn't this hang right on me? Why won't things hang right on me? Well, because of the way I'm built. They just don't all the time. And that's just how it is. But you're right, Carolyn, and I think that's a good piece of advice. Next thing, for God's sakes, do not focus on diets. If I never hear the word diet again in my life, I will be blissfully happy. That was the first thing I did. There is no food that is off limits to me. There is no food that I can't have. Well, except for the ones that I can't have because of various meds I'm on. Or foods that I need to limit because of various meds I'm on. But I don't say I can't have chocolate cake. I don't say I can't have, a slice of bread. I don't say that. Now, there are some things that I choose to limit because either I've discovered that it's helpful for me to do that, or because of, like I said, various restrictions I have with medications or whatever it is. But I just have really tried to learn to focus on making better choices. Can I have, grilled vegetables instead of au gratin potatoes with my steak or my chop or whatever it is, Can I have meals that are meatless? Can I look at better options for, like low fat cheese and low fat sour cream and stuff like that? Can I do that and save some calories and some fat that way? Can I just be a little more aware of what I'm eating? And that doesn't mean I don't splurge. That doesn't mean that there aren't, perennial favorites that I still make, even though maybe they're not the best for me. Sorry, need a little drink here. But I decided that the goal needs to be to eat healthier, not to ban foods, not to make foods evil, because for years and years and years in my life, there were evil foods that you were never supposed to eat. And there was a string of years where almost every time I ate in front of someone in my family, I would get asked, "Do you need that second helping? Do you really want to eat that?" And I was like, ugh. And honestly, what it made me do generally was eat more because I'd get so mad that, people were judging my choices, that I was just like, I can't deal with this anymore. So I knew when I started on this journey toward getting healthier that one of the things I needed to focus on was, what is healthy eating? And healthy eating in terms of, I did some research, I did some reading, I learned about why certain foods are good for you, why certain foods maybe need to be less. I learned about, growth hormones in foods and what organic means and why it's better to try to get vegetables and stuff from the farmer's market and, all that kind of stuff. So I did a lot of research and reading and just learning about food and where it comes from and how your body interacts with it and what's in some of our food. And does that mean that I don't occasionally scarf down some, barbecue Fritos or whatever? No, of course I do. But maybe not as often as I once would have. And maybe sometimes I choose edamame instead of chips. And maybe sometimes it's asparagus and a baked pork chop instead of mashed potatoes and gravy and roast beef, Or maybe it's marinated baked chicken as opposed to fried chicken or something like that. It's just little choices. And yeah, there are times when I just go whole hog and I eat all the carbs and all the pasta and all the chocolate and all the everything. But those are much less than they used to be. And the other thing is portion size. I have figured out that smaller plates, smaller bowls help me to have smaller portions. Sounds like a pretty silly thing, but it's useful. If there's less space on the plate, you put less stuff on it. If there's less room in the bowl, you put less stuff in it. That makes a difference. Now, these are things that work for me. Your tips or what you do may be totally different. The thing is, focus on eating more healthy. Don't focus on banning foods. Actually, really honestly, try not to focus on the food at all, other than what do I like to eat and what is the health value of what I like to eat. Because food was huge, at least in my life, for a really long time. And mostly it was huge in the foods I'm not supposed to eat that I'm now going to eat a ton of because you guys made me mad by saying I shouldn't eat them. And the foods that I didn't really like. Some of it is adjusting your taste too. I eat way more vegetables and fruits than I used to because I used to, and I eat them in more more raw form, less processed forms. I don't need to dump 3 tons of cheese on my broccoli now to make it palatable. So some of it is training your taste buds a little differently. Some of it is just being aware. Some of it is spending time looking for recipes. Some of it is learning how food interacts with your body. There's a lot of things. Carolyn was saying, get a stylist, schedule some time with a nutritionist. I did that. It helped a lot. Because one of the things that the nutritionist told me is I had been very like, oh, I mustn't have this. And she said, you can have anything. You just have to be smart about your portion sizes, and you have to be aware that some things are going to be less often than others. But, there's no law that says you can't have a piece of bread or a potato or a piece of chocolate cake. Just don't eat half the cake. If you're having Girl Scout cookies, if you're having Thin Mints, don't eat the whole sleeve of Thin Mints, which I'm sorry, that's just impossible. But you get the idea. Some of it is how much you're eating. Some of it is what you're eating. And sometimes you just need to say, you know what? I don't want to think about this right now. I'm just going to have what I want to have. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you make good choices and healthy choices most of the time, then when you do go off the reservation and just pig out on something, it's not going to set everything back. And that tends to be the other thing that people think, well, I had that piece of cake last night, so now the entire week is blown. No, you had a piece of cake last night. The entire week is only blown if you follow up that piece of cake last night with 15 pancakes today. If you go back to eating healthy, then you had a piece of cake last night. And honestly, over time, it all averages out. So that was one of the most helpful things I learned. Yes, exactly. What? It is impossible. They come in a sleeve. I know. Thin Mints are evil. They need to not package them that way. So, another thing to do, focus on what you love about your body. This was so hard for me. I honestly thought there was nothing that I loved about my body. And I'm going to be real with you. I got scars. I've lost a bunch of weight, and I got flab and extra skin, and it's not, I did not stand in front of the mirror and go, oh man, this is awesome. So I started thinking about, okay, what do I like? I like my eyes. I like my skin. I think I have pretty skin. I like my hair now. Okay, so there are things that I like that when my body had the chance to kill me, it didn't. And that sounds weird, but when my heart decided to go on the fritz several years ago, and I finally got to the cardiologist, and he said, yeah, you're going to the hospital now. He came to me later and he said, do you know what a bullet you dodged? And I said, no. And he said, you were walking around for 4 months in AFib. You could have thrown a clot. You could have had a heart attack. You could have had a stroke. You could have had a pulmonary embolism. Not a million, but several really, really detrimental, if not deadly things could have happened to you. And your body did not do any of them. And I was like, dang, that's a pretty good body. I'm kind of pleased by this. And I was, and I am. My body is, for all its, factory faults, it does the job. It does what it's supposed to do. It kept me alive at a time when basically every system in my body was not working right. So I love that. I'm starting to love the fact that my body is stronger now. My body is more flexible now. My body can do things it couldn't before. And it's been willing to go on this journey with me to learn how to do those things. That's amazing. So focus on what you like about your body. There's got to be something. Even if it's just, hey, I like the way my hands look when I wear nail polish. Whatever it is. Something. Because it's where you live. It's where you live. You cannot be you without your body. So you need to love it. Or at least form a cordial relationship with it. And yeah, it's something that will happen over time. It's not something that's going to happen tomorrow. But make an effort. Like I said, for me, I think the biggest thing is just my body's been through a lot and it's still here. And it didn't kill me when it could have. And it went through years of neglect and still functioned. You got to love a body like that because it didn't have to do any of that. Another thing, practice gratitude. What are you grateful for? I'm grateful I was able to do 3 more push-ups this time when I worked out than I did last time. I'm grateful that all 3 meals today, I made good choices. I'm grateful that I was able to walk up those steps without becoming a panting red-faced mess at the end. I'm grateful that my body didn't kill me. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be huge. I'm grateful for the chance to do better today than I did yesterday. Whatever it is. But I think for a lot of us, we turn being healthy into drudgery. Oh, I have to do this. I have to eat this thing. You don't have to eat that thing. You don't have to do this exercise. You don't have to do anything. What you do have to remember that is if you have the opportunity to do things to make yourself healthier, there are people out there who don't, who maybe can't because of a disability or, a critical or terminal illness or a chronic illness. So if you have the ability to do those things, be grateful for that. That's a gift. And I never would. The fact that those words are coming out of my mouth is just blows my mind, but it is a gift. I am still here. I can still move. I can make my body better. That's a gift, man. And it's one I'm grateful for because not everybody gets that. And I almost didn't get it. If things had gone differently, those many years ago when my heart decided to just go insane, I could well not be here, or I could be here and not be able to speak because I had a stroke or something. And none of that happened. So I'm grateful every day. Even though I don't always remember it, I don't want to come off as I'm sitting around every day going, oh, I'm so grateful for everything. No, there are days when I wake up just like everybody else and go, I have to get up. I don't want to. But overall, I'm really, really grateful. And finally, a lot of us, when we embark on the journey of getting healthier, which I am substituting for losing weight, we always say, oh, well, when I can fit into this size swimsuit, I'll go swimming. Or, oh, well, when I look like this, I'll do this podcast. Or when I, am this size, I'll start dating again, or whatever it is. You only get one life. And I like Carolyn said earlier, I look back and I think, oh, I wasted so much of my life not doing things because I didn't think I looked acceptable, or saying I would wait to do things until I got to a certain size, which, spoiler alert, I never got to. So you only get one life, and your time on earth is finite, and you never know how long you have. So don't wait. If there's something you want to do it now. If there's something you'll enjoy, do it now. If there's something that you want to put out into the world, do it now. Don't wait until you're some arbitrary size or, some arbitrary weight, some number on the scale, whatever it is. Because the gifts that you want to share with the world and the things you want to do, you can do them right now. It doesn't matter if you think you're too big. It doesn't matter if you don't like the way you look. It doesn't matter if you think people will judge you. Do it now. That's all I'm going to say. And that ends the lecture for today, my friends. Thank you all for sticking with me. Thank you for the comments. I appreciate it. And I will be back next week with something else. Could be a guest, could not be a guest. Who knows? But I thank you all for being here today and sticking with me for this. And I hope maybe I said something that echoed with you a little bit. And cool blue fingernails. I'll see you all tomorrow. No, I'll see you all next week, not tomorrow. Thank you, everybody.